presentation today, I was kind of reminded of Simon Sinek. He's a business mentor, leader, and he's kind of got famous for his start with why. And I asked myself, I challenged myself to see if I can explain why community, why tribe is important, why it's necessary, and then also identify the challenges, because if we don't address the challenges in anything we do, then we also can't find the appropriate solutions, right? So for me, community, I'm shaking really nicely today. Breaking the isolation is really important. Starting to heal from the trauma of the isolation, the trauma of the experience of stuttering, when we feel that we're alone in the world. I speak with a fair number of people who stutter, who kind of starting to reach out. I want to mention a couple. I'll get very emotional. There's a woman who stutters in Israel. She's 54, I think. Phenomenal person. Really, really intelligent, knowledgeable, capable, supportive, and she suffers. She can't even say the word stuttering, right? And I know what it feels like before 2010. I couldn't say the word, couldn't even search for the word. And here's this amazing person. I imagine, I was going to say assume, but I want to assume, imagine that many of us have experienced this, incredibly capable of everything, and this thing about her is completely holding her back and completely overwhelms her sense of self. And kind of makes, I want to get mad about it because it's insane. This stigma and this lack of being seen and being heard, if you want. We have to change this, and I think that we are. Another thing that I find very important in the sense of community, sense of tribe, is learning to understand stuttering. That was a good one. When we don't understand stuttering, we feel defective, different. I carried with me, still do carry remnants of a deep sense of a feeling of inferiority. But when we get together and we can understand stuttering, why we stutter and how we stutter, then it changes the picture. We're not just stuttering, they're good reasons, right? And maybe then we don't have to feel so, not so, we don't have to feel perfect, it's simply the way we talk. When we get together as a community, as a tribe, we share experiences. I don't know if you folks have experienced this. When I meet other people who stutter, like an event like this, there's like an immediate, intimate connection because we have a deep understanding of each other, of our experiences. And it's the complete opposite to the feeling of isolation. We can also learn to laugh, or we can relearn to laugh when we're as a community. And I think it's really important. We start to understand stigma, the societal stigma, and the self-stigma that we adopt as a result. I feel, obviously this is my personal experience, not fact, but a lot of all of the suffering that we experienced in the past, and we trace to this stigma, this completely irrational thing, but which is so powerful. Why do my classmates make fun of me? Stigma. And that feeling of isolation. I'm the only kid. Why do my parents fear for my future? I've spoken to so many parents that say, okay, my child is 5 years old and they're stuttering. How are they going to get married and how are they going to study? And I'm a parent, I know what it is to fear for your children, worry about them. But the parents are fearing it because they're also isolated and they don't understand. And there's this huge stigma. Well, the stigma comes when the aunts and the uncles and the grandfathers and the grandmothers come into the parents' house and they say, why can't you fix your child already? You know, being really aggressive towards the parents. Why can't you do something about your child already? You know, awful. So really awful abuse, actually, as a result of this stigma, which is not rational at all. It's not real. It's an invention. I don't remember who wrote it. The problem is not disability or difference, but rather the inability of society to adjust, to accommodate disability and difference. And we can change our mindsets about how we view this difference or disability, or whatever we call it, and certainly how we view the stigma. And again, we can do it much more easily and much more effectively when we do so as a community. There are challenges, right? We're human beings. We know a lot of the challenges of dealing with other people and dealing with ourselves. We've all got our own emotional baggage load, whatever it is that we bring with us. We've got our own ideas. So there are challenges. I recently read a phenomenal novel, in my opinion. The novel is called Closer to Fine, by an author called Jody Rosenfeld. One of the lines, I get all choked up. Sometimes, she was speaking, the character was speaking about community. Sometimes this can unite us, but often it divides us. And she carries on, let us be non-judgmental and compassionate. And I'm talking, of course, first of all to myself. Let me be non-judgmental and compassionate. To learn about compassion and understanding others and understanding ourselves. Another huge challenge to community is the mirror effect. Do you folks know what I mean when I say the mirror effect? Okay, so the mirror effect in stuttering is that I'm alone, I stutter, I feel awful about myself, I feel defective. The last thing I want to do is to see another person who stammers. Okay, so many people who stutter that we know have avoided coming to meet other people who stutter because they don't want to see another person who stutters. It's too much. They're seeing what they fear the most, what they hate the most. Connected to that, and it's all connected to stigma, but connected to that is the refusal, desire not to be tagged as a stutterer. People that we've spoken to, right? Say, I'm not going to come to a meeting because I don't want to be tagged as a person who stutters. I don't want to be tagged as a person who's disabled. And the challenge is to help folks understand that it's not a tag unless we choose to make it a tag. It's our choice, how we define ourselves. Yes, I stutter. I'm a person who stutters. And when I come to the UK, I'm a person who stammers. So, sometimes. We don't have to accept descriptive terms as defining who we are. And again, being in a community helps us get past that, but the challenge is getting the people often to the community. A huge challenge, our thoughts, our beliefs, our perceptions, our judgments. Trauma. There was a great episode on the podcast about a month ago about trauma, the trauma of the experience of stuttering. We're all individuals, we all have had our own journey, we all had our own traumas or not, but there are significant traumas, there are significant mental health challenges. And then, of course, a lot of stigma around mental health. So now, we don't want to talk about our mental health. I don't want to talk about my social anxiety or my depression or suicidal thoughts because it's all stigmatized. And I can't talk about stuttering because it's stigmatized. It's a pretty dark place to be. I'm not alone, right? In many cases, in many countries, many communities in the world, there's a lack of organization, right? Many places like here, right, they're great organizations, great communities. In many places there are not. And there's then a lack of self-help groups, associations that will advocate for people who stutter, that will educate, speak about stigma, speak about human rights. So it's a challenge. In many countries there's a lack of high-speed internet access because a lot of communities are internet-based, which is a great thing, but hey, in my village I don't have high-speed internet, how am I going to get on a video chat? And unfortunately I don't have an answer yet to that. So, that's more or less the why. How am I doing for time? Alright. So, we then say, okay, how do we find our community? We live, I feel, in a very fortunate age that there are lots and lots of communities. Sidebar, going back, yes, there are lots of challenges in communities around the world where there aren't communities and there isn't internet access. Overall, in the world, there are a lot more communities available. And I was trying to make a list of all the communities, and I eventually stopped because it's amazing how many there are. But in UK you have Stammer, and in UK you've got self-help groups in different areas, right? The Sheffield self-help group, or the Manchester, or the Stammer Striders, right? The Scottish Stammering Network, the Irish Stammering Association. In Israel, the Israeli Stuttering Association, AMBI. India, Ghana, Nepal, and there are many other countries. Sweden, I can't mention them all. And then there are other communities like Stammerly. Urian is here somewhere. How's it? So you have folks creating communities like Stammerly, which are then accessible to people around the world, as long as they've got good internet or reasonable internet, which is fine. The World Stuttering Network, which was created 2 years ago or something, is also creating a lot of community opportunities to connect with community. And just in the last month, there was another community created, Stutter Freely. Earlier on the year, Stuttering Society was created, so we live in a fortunate age. There's a ton of opportunities for us to find community. And podcasts, okay? Stuttering is Cool by Daniele Rossi, Women Who Stutter, Our Stories, incredibly important, by Pam Miritz. Stutter Talk. One of those things that saved my life. Crowd start. I don't know if Maya is here with us today or not. Maya Chukov. Anyway, hi Maya, if you're here. So, Crowd Stutter is another podcast. Stutter Stories, Stutter with Confidence. And the ISAD, it's not really community, but ISAD online conference, which runs from October 1st to October 31st every year. What do we do in our community? So we know that there are challenges, so what do we do? Obviously there are many things, but for me, we change our perceptions and our attitudes. We learn that it's okay to stutter. It's incredibly difficult, incredibly important lesson. It's the way we talk. We learn that stuttering is a difference, not a defect. Thank you, Patrick, Sam, and Chris. Check out Patrick and Sam's lecture today at 12:15. So I'm going to give a few examples of lectures, of workshops that kind of support what I'm trying to say. It's not that I'm trying to give a preference to any workshop. I wouldn't presume to know. Okay? So that stuttering is a difference, not a defect. Think about it. That is life-changing. What we do in our community, really important, is we educate ourselves about stuttering, why we stutter, how we stutter. So there is a lot of neuroscience research that has been done in the last, 10 or 15 years and continues. There's a lecture by Dr. Jerry Maguire on Friday at 10. For me, included in the key part of educating myself is mindfulness. Learning about mindfulness and adopting mindfulness as much as I can as a way of life. So we have a lecture on Saturday at 12:15 on mindfulness, self-compassion, and decentering. Really important research and messages. We learn about acceptance. Acceptance of stuttering and letting go of the struggle. Thank you, Vivian Siskin. So Vivian Siskin's talk on struggle, identifying, separating stuttering from struggle. I really get all choked up also when I talk about completely changed my life, because there is a difference. There's stuttering and then there's this struggle around stuttering, all the things that we try to do in order to not stutter, to hide our stutter, and that's where we suffer. So lecture on that today, I think, at 2:15, not mistaken. In our community, we become empowered and supported. We break the isolation. There's a speed friendling session on Saturday 11. And I think about speed friendling, and my social anxiety says, "Hi, Hanan." It's very fun, but it's a very powerful thing. We become liberated. Thank you, American Institute for Stuttering, for the byline. Speak freely, live fearlessly. It really embodies what we're aiming for and what we can really get as a community. And we learn to choose the life that we want for ourselves. Never mind the stuttering, stammering. What life do we want for ourselves? In community, becomes possible to brainstorm, to hear from others what they've done, what they're doing, and we learn how to get out of our own way. Annie spoke about this, Annie Bradley taught me, we learn how to get out of our own way. I took a pretty long time to find community. I was the tender age of 47 when I eventually found a community, and I just want to thank a few people. Anita, a few people who were there when I finally reached out and tried to find some information. So Anita, the late Bernie Weiner. I used to talk with Bernie sometimes. I'm in Israel, Bernie's in America, and we know what happens in Israel and our passion for wars. So Bernie would ask me, how's the weather? And I'd say, yeah, partly cloudy with the chance of missiles. Pan Merritt's, Annie Bradbury, of course. So one of the really, really cool things about communities, we come for support and we continue with paying it forward. And those of you who have been fortunate to pay it forward, I imagine, I don't want to talk for you, you know what a privilege it is and how great a feeling it is. So come for support and you will be able to then pay it forward, help the others who need it. It's crucially important. For that we get belonging, we get empowerment, we get support, and everybody can play a role in that paying it forward. You know, someone might say, "Who, me?" And I would say to them, "Why not you?" And it's really true, everybody can. We get past our self-limiting beliefs, our self-limiting thoughts and beliefs, behaviors. When trying to find community, when trying to pay it forward, when trying whatever to create communities, then there are many established communities and established leaders who will be able to help you. So if anybody is looking, if we say, okay, I live in a village down the road, I don't know where, I want to establish a community in this country far away, how? So the great news is that there are plenty of people who can help with that, who'd be really thrilled to help. Come up and ask the questions, ask how, and there'll be plenty of people to help us along the way. A couple things just to end off, some conclusions for me, hopefully for you, and a couple of relevant messages that I find helpful. Counting stuttered syllables. We got to stop this. Can we get an amen at least for that? We always, I think, my opinion, we always need to keep in mind the problem is not the problem. The problem is our attitude to the problem. Embodied, if I understand correctly, somewhat in Stoic philosophy, Ryan Holiday wrote a book called The Obstacle is the Way. Nothing to do with stuttering, it's got to do with how we view obstacles. And very often, the obstacle is not something to be avoided or gotten by or say, oh, okay, obstacle, I can't do anything. So the obstacle is the way. Addressing the obstacle shows us the way. So with stuttering and with acceptance of stuttering, acceptance doesn't mean resignation. It's okay, there's a way through this, and there is. We find our community. A woman who I'm fortunate to work with in the context of 50 Million Voices, Shilpa Sagwar, Is that her name? So we had a 50 million voices event a few months ago. We had a workshop, and someone in the workshop, I don't remember, Ian, asked how do I go ahead? And Shilpa said simply, find your community, right? Incredibly simple, incredibly powerful, and there are communities, and if you don't know, come and ask, and we will help you find. A guy that was active, that still is active in the National Stuttering Association of America, Kenny Corral. I remember I was at a conference there many years ago, and Kenny was speaking, and he said, "We are the change." Maybe you were there at the time. It's really powerful. We are the change. It would be lovely to live in a world that understands and accepts stuttering. We're working on it. Give us another week or two, right? We'll be there. But in the meantime, we can effect change in ourselves. Our thoughts and our perceptions, our relationship to our stuttering, relationship to the world, and push back against the stigma. It's great when we have organizations and companies and governments helping us to push back against the stigma, but we have that power to do so. Is it easy? No, it's really, really hard. Do I manage all the time? No, I don't. Very often, my old fear and shame overcomes me, and I don't. And then I have to use my self-compassion, right? Which is wonderful. As we and always talk to myself as well, as we move ahead in our journey, something very important, and maybe it's just important for me. Ryan Holiday wrote, "Whatever happens next, ego is the enemy." We like praise, we like feeling accepted, we like feeling, wow, I did this, well, I did that. It's pretty meaningless at the end of the day. How long does fame last these days? It's not 15 minutes anymore, it's only 10 minutes, right? Or less. And everybody's got something to say about it anyway, which is cool, that's theirs. Ego is the enemy. Whatever happens next, ego is the enemy. It really helps us move forward. Can we get that Mentimeter? How are we for time? 20 minutes. We're going to have an early coffee break first. No. So,